Thank you guys for tuning in to another segment of the Sitdown Malik Wright. We're live from the First Star Logistics studio. And on this segment, we'll be discussing if the Philadelphia 76ers should blow it up. I have my thoughts on it. And I'll start off by saying this. I think the process is dead. I think it's been dead. And I think it's been on life support. I think people have just been trying to find different ways to say that the process isn't dead, but I think the fact that Ben Simmons didn't work out, right? The fact that James Harden has now requested a trade.
Mhm.
How, who do you have left from the process? What, Joel Embiid, Tobias Harris? Like, come on now, those two aren't really doing much together. And I think the Philadelphia 76ers are faced with a real reality right now that maybe they should look to life after Joel Embiid potentially, because it's clear to me, maybe it's not clear to everybody else, it's clear to me that they're probably not going to win with him as their lead man, in my opinion. And I think it was easy for us as media to jump on Ben Simmons, right? It's easier for us as media to jump on Doc Rivers. It's easiest for us as media to jump on James Harden. But I feel like sometimes the blame isn't being shifted to Joel Embiid. There were a lot of moments in this playoffs where Joel Embiid did not show up. And it was easy to crap on James Harden, but one could argue without James Harden, they're not even in the position that they were in. So I think that, just as well as Joel Embiid wants the praise, right? And he wanted to win MVP, he should be wearing a lot of the blame. A superstar, X factor guy in the way that we all view Joel Embiid shows up in a potential elimination game against the Boston Celtics. Joel Embiid didn't. Okay. And to me, it's always been this weird, like we've seen it with LeBron before in the past, where LeBron would hold his teammates to a high standard and he would
Mm.
speak about them or to them in such a way as if not belittling, but almost letting them know, like, you need to step up your game. And Joel Embiid does that when I feel like he hasn't done anything or won anything to a to be able to speak in the fashion that he has. Now, certainly he won MVP this year, right? But at the same time, if you don't have championships to show for, how can you hold a coach or players or role players to a certain standard when you're not even showing up and you're supposed to be this dominant force or the guy that's leading our team? And that's always been my gripe for with Joel Embiid. He constantly gets a pass. He constantly is not held to the same standard. Why was Ben Simmons, ridiculed, scrutinized because he was completely disrespected by Joel Embiid on several occasions, right? But Joel Embiid, when the 76ers don't do well or get eliminated from the playoffs year after year after year, we constantly shift the blame to Doc Rivers, to role players, to another star next to him instead of blaming the guy that just won MVP. And now the excuse is, oh, well, Joel Embiid was coming off of an injury. Nobody told him to come back. Nobody told him to come back. This is also the same guy that when he did come back, I believe he had a monster game in there,
Yes.
right? So if you're so unhealthy to help your team, you wouldn't have had that type of performance. So I just think that the media, we us in media, we kind of shift a lot of the goalposts for Joel Embiid without actually just addressing it. And I feel like people might be scared to address him personally. I don't know what it is.
Mm.
Certainly, Philly media must be scared to address him, but it seems like nobody holds him to that type of standard. And I think that's BS. I think that there's a reason why the Philadelphia 70. I don't think his leadership style works from a player standpoint. I think he's a hard player to coach. And if I'm a star player and I'm like, hey, I want to play somewhere, I don't think I would want to play with a guy like Joel Embiid because even though it's his team, even though he's the face of the franchise, whatever goes wrong with the team, people are going to be looking at you. They're not going to be looking at him. They'll blame everybody under God's green earth. I guarantee you, if the 76ers don't do well this season, Nick Nurse will be blamed. Daryl Morey will be blamed before Joel Embiid is blamed. And guess what? The process starts and finishes with Joel Embiid. And I'm here to tell the Philadelphia 76ers faithful, the Philly fan base, the process is dead. Aiden?
Look, I want to get on record saying I agree with all of what you just said. I don't believe in Embiid as a leader. I don't believe they're going to win a title with him in Philly. I just don't see it working. the core around them right now, Daryl Morey is working with finite resources. There isn't a great James Harden trade out there. You have Tyrese Maxey. I love him. Great young guard.
Mhm.
Outside of that, though, like Tobias Harris expiring contract, you don't have your 2025 first round pick. I really am interested to see, though, what do they get back in the James Harden trade, because that's going to be a huge building block for them moving forward. Luckily, Daryl Morey is patient with these things. If you remember with the Ben Simmons situation, that was one where people were like, you just got to move off Simmons. This is a disaster. It's taking forever. Get 50 cents on the dollar. Morey waited, and he ends up getting James Harden, which, say what you want about Harden, that was an amazing trade, and nobody thought they could get all that for him. I'm hoping they remain patient. I think he will. But even with that being said, I do think you have to hang on to Embiid and try to make this work. Even if I personally don't see it happening, when you have a player of this magnitude that's still in his prime and still has years left, you have to try to pull all the stops to make it work. Again, I don't believe it will, but you got to try to make it happen.
Yeah, just to like touch on the process, quote unquote, aspect of it. I think I think the big swing and miss, much was made about the process and tanking and getting top picks. You have to hit on picks, right? And they went on a streak of miserable drafting, whether it was Jahlil Okafor, Nerlens Noel, Ben Simmons, Markelle Fultz. None of these guys found that. Oh, I forgot. Mikal Bridges too. Ended up shipping him out. Yeah, that's rough. That's player evaluation. That's talent evaluation. That's prospect development. That's a lot of fault within the organization very consistently. And I'm not going to lay that at Joel Embiid's feet, like for being just part of that. I definitely think that there is a way to appropriately go, we are on the downturn like the Sixers are now. Let's accrue assets based on what we have and rebuild, versus let's do this for 4 or 5 years and then we'll have a super team. That's so I think that brings us to the point of where they are currently, where when you say, let's just put our hand over Joel Embiid's name on the roster sheet and say 34-year-old James Harden, who is aging rapidly, Tyrese Maxey, who is up for extension after 1 year, Tobias Harris, and PJ Tucker. Is there anything you look at between all that and say that is absolutely a piece of our core going forward? And the answer is maybe Tyrese Maxey. If he extends, if you tear this down, is he even going to want to re-sign with you?
So here's the, sorry to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
So my thought process is, your biggest asset right now is your biggest player.
This is the time to trade him.
This is the time to trade.
Absolutely.
Get
because I don't 3 first-round picks
he's
back.
He's gotten hurt the last 2 years. Listen, his value will never be as high as it is. He's coming off of an MVP-like season. Even if you don't trade him this offseason, which you're not going to, but maybe next offseason, maybe this is the time to ship him out, get a boatload of picks, and start to build for the future with Philly. Right. Because he's not going to be a part of that future.
It's you can't look at that roster right now and realistically tell yourself that you are competing with the big dogs in the East.
Somebody would give you a boatload for Joel.
But that's the thing, is you are instantly in the Portland rebuild spot where you're like, hey, you know what? We just got this boatload of picks. We've got our pick this year. We've got our pick in 26, 27, 28, 29. Like, so maybe it's time. Maybe this is the perfect time.
I agree with you. And here's the thing, and I know Danny wants to get in here and say something, but like, people want to talk about it, right? Well, Joel Embiid, he's only 29 years old. Well, guess what? Trading a 29-year-old big man is the perfect time to trade him versus a Damian Lillard who's in his what? 30s?
Guards can play into their early 30s. Big man, the stress on their body definitely adds up.
It's already showing for Joel Embiid. Listen, I think Joel Embiid's value, if you're going to trade Joel Embiid, you better trade him now or at late next offseason to get some serious value for him, because once you start getting to 31, 32, nobody's trading for that. No, and or what you perceive that you could potentially get, it's not a wise business decision. If I was Daryl Morey and if I was the Philadelphia 76ers brass, I'd move on from Joel Embiid ASAP.
Are we ever going to go ahead?
So my quick question is, obviously, like, what I'm going to say might sound a little bit crazy, but you have to kind of take like the fan base into perspective in the sense that they don't want to go through another rebuild. So is there any world where they try to trade for a star like Dame to these last 2 years? Or is it, hey, rebuild or nothing else.
You have no tangible assets to get. You just Dame is due a lot of money, like a lot of money. And he's also going to be older, like 4 years older when he's getting $50-60 million a year. But also to try and gut this roster and drag the corpse across the finish line into the playoffs just to say, hey, we made it into the playoffs. Like that's what the Clippers did for like 5 years when they were like, no, we're good. And everyone's like, be real. Be real. Like you
be real.
Be real with yourself. And they're like, no, really. DeAndre Jordan, he's coming along and this is the year. And we're like, come on, guys. Seriously. Like, it was, I can't imagine you looking, like you said, with the fan opinion, looking at the fans and saying, we are legitimately trying to win this year when you would probably have to give up James Harden, Tyrese Maxey, and then you're sitting there with Joel Embiid, Dame Lillard, and Furkan Korkmaz, Daniel House Jr. Like, that's what I'm saying.
Melton.
How are you going to look at them? And as soon as you go into the playoffs, you're going to get picked to pieces. You can't win like that with just 2 stars and not a lot of depth around them. If you're going to win with 2 stars, you have to have the depth, and there's no path to legitimate contention, whether getting Dame or this is the point when you say, God, we are really straining ourselves and our resources just to try and be competitive. This is the time. This is the time. They are at that natural time.
Joel Embiid's knees is straining too.
Ain't that the truth?
So real quick, before you go, Malik, I want you guys to think: what team would make the most sense for Joel Embiid? You guys aren't saying now.
This is what I was going to ask.
I know
this is the fun part.
Are we ever going to stop sending centers to the Mavericks?
Oh, I would love that.
You're talking about a center who is a guaranteed 30 and 10, a paint presence on defense, and one of the better playmaking big men, underrated.
Kyrie.
All of the first round picks, Mark Cuban throws in a .com deal.
Here's what I'll tell you. And this is a very interesting topic to have. What teams make sense? Because I think any team could potentially make sense. But I'll say this, and I just want to speak very intimately with the Philly faithful right now.
The Hawks.
I
know. I would throw
what I'm about to say. I want you guys to listen up, and I want you guys to listen up clear to me. Joel Embiid will never win you guys a championship. Joel Embiid will never win you guys a championship. You guys won't even sniff a championship with Joel Embiid leading the way. And that's not a hot take. That's me being real with you. Listen, I consider when I sit in this chair, right, and I come to you guys each and every single week, I consider myself like a therapist. It is my job to help educate and help talk you guys down off of the bridge of unrealistic, expectations. I'm here to tell you Joel Embiid is not the answer. If you guys were going to win, it would have been with the core that you had with Ben Simmons, right? With Joel Embiid, when you guys were at the height of this whole process thing and the process is in dead. I'll tell you guys what the biggest mistake that you guys made as an organization was. And I hope you guys are listening careful to me. And I know I'm going to get cursed out. I'm going to get called a bozo and all this type of stuff. But the biggest mistake that they made in this Philadelphia process era is choosing Tobias Harris over Jimmy Butler.
Yes.
That cost you guys not only a championship, but multiple championships in the future. And that's something that you could potentially never recover from. Joel Embiid, I still think probably is pissed.
It's team building, man. It was team building through and through. Drafting, free agent acquisitions, every step of the way.
That decision, thinking that Tobias Harris was the answer over Jimmy Butler, man, I don't know what was on, because we saw what Jimmy Butler was able to do this year for the Miami Heat. By the way, I don't even think this Miami Heat team is really that good, that talented, to be honest with you. I just think that they play well as a team, and I think you have a gritty guy in Jimmy Butler who is going to give you his all night in and night out. Might not always result in the best results, but he's the guy that's going to play hard. He's going to try. But the biggest mistake that you guys made was choosing Tobias Harris over Jimmy Butler. I think there needs to be a real conversation within the Philadelphia 76 organization. And I think that conversation needs to look like, what does our future genuinely hold? If we don't do anything this year, because we're already starting with a new coach and Nick Nurse. If we don't do anything this year, what does the future look like for us? Because Joel Embiid clearly can't be the answer. So again, I know it's cool to say year in and year out, the process. But I'm here to tell you guys will never, I repeat, never. I will leave this show. You will never win a championship with Joel Embiid as your leader. I promise you that.
Agree.
Promise you that. That being said, spots that make sense for Joel Embiid. I love the the Dallas Mavericks.
I'm trying to think
thought
of other
that
teams like
makes-
Atlanta. If
Atlanta
they
makes a
want
lot
to
of
get
sense.
really
They
like,
do.
hey, we got
Atlanta-
Murray,
Atlanta-
we got Young. Let's get a big guy in there
Atlanta
that
makes
can
sense.
really
I'll
handle
tell you
it.
a team that makes sense too.
Sadiq Bey's been playing well too.
I got a
Shut
team
up.
that makes sense for you.
Go ahead. Yeah, hit me.
A team that is, I think that they're lost right now because their leader thinks it's okay to play with guns and be immature. But the Memphis Grizzlies make a lot of
Slide him in
sense.
next, dude. Can they do
Him
that
and
now?
Jaren defensively.
I was gonna
oh
say,
my
yeah,
God.
but like after giving Desmond Bain that max contract, well,
he would be a
what's
part.
Ja
Of,
gonna
he would
make
be a
anyway?
part of that
Yeah.
trade.
Right? Yeah, you'd have to.
He
You'd
would
have
be a
to
part
have
of.
something in there.
I think they make sense. I think. Damn, you're right. Like you're actually thinking about it.
Probably have to give them Jaren Jackson
I mean,
some picks.
I do that though.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you get the finished product of what
yeah.
you hope Jaren
100%.
Jackson. Well, I mean, God,
Jaren Jackson's not going to be a top 5, top 7 guy.
No. He's going to be
Love him.
excellent on the defensive end. He's got a long way to go offensively to get to Joel Embiid's level. But yeah, there's a significant upgrade for a team who's like, hey, we want to seriously contend. That's definitely an interesting option. What you think?
OKC, probably got to throw them in, right?
Hey, don't sleep on Chet Holmgren.
yes.
Don't sleep on Chet Holmgren.
You have to throw them in.
Don't say it.
No,
They
no,
got
don't
a
say it.
lot
Don't
of
say
assets,
it.
though.
Don't
They got
say
a lot of
it.
assets.
Don't say it.
I'm not.
I
sleeping
don't
on
think
Chet
we're.
Holmgren.
I don't
They
think
fit.
we're seeing the
No.
same way. But I see a team that makes sense.
What conference?
The Charlotte Hornets. The Charlotte Hornets
and
can make
LaMelo.
sense.
I just don't know if they're ready to really like actually put their foot in the ring as contenders right now.
Yeah.
I don't know if that
Yeah.
gets you there. I think that's the
And
same problem as
if
like
we're-
Dame and Sixers.
If we're being honest right now, I don't see this happening.
No, we're having
But-
fun.
Yeah, we are having fun.
I like having
The
fun.
New York
we have fun
Knicks-
around here.
That's a good one.
The New York Knicks makes a lot of sense.
They
Get
just.
rid of Randall.
I was gonna say, did they just swap Randall like
Well, they gotta do
with
a
some
more
picks
than
and
that.
Yeah,
everything?
a lot more than
Because I mean, you don't. Well, that's the thing is you don't want to give up. You're getting good play from RJ Barrett finally. You're getting Quickly's coming along real hot. Like you don't want to give
Mhm.
up those young assets.
I'll
that
give
you
up
want.
Barrett any day.
Well,
Forget that.
you give Randall Barrett and a couple first round picks and maybe a little
Sign
extra
me up.
salary. Yeah, no, I mean, I know Sixers fans are probably throwing their keyboards right now. Like I wouldn't. We're messing around, guys. It's all right. We're
Yeah,
having
having
fun.
fun.
Have fun.
Take Embiid back to his old buddy Mikal Bridges with the Brooklyn Nets. They got assets.
They
They
definitely
got assets.
They have
Yeah,
so many
they
picks
do.
that they could trade away.
Him and
Plus, they got some
Mikal.
good
That's
young-
you
Claxton
got
would
two
be
guys
nice.
there.
Sixers would like Claxton.
Yeah.
They got to figure out their point guard position at that point, though, because
Yeah.
Dinwiddie's free agent. I like Dinwiddie. I wouldn't mind him coming back and running the offense and being the Derek Fisher of that team. We're like, hey, I'll just set us up and knock down some open threes and just kind of hit my layups and driving dishes and call it a day.
It's going to be interesting in the next couple of years to see the teams that rise and teams that
There's a big
gonna fall
change in
behind.
the guard
Oh,
coming
yeah.
up. It's
Oh,
it's
yeah.
kind of like the NFL where
Yeah.
the Ben Roethlisberger, Phillip Rivers era started to kind of transition out, and now you're seeing that as a lot of the stars start
Oh,
to
yeah.
age that we've kind of become familiar with, and it's
Oh, yeah.
definitely time
You always
for.
need that you need the cream always rises to the top. So you need a need crop of people to pretty much separate themselves. So
Right.
It'll be interesting. It'll
Yes,
be
sir.
interesting. I just thought of a team, but that I won't.
You
even
just
bring it
keep
up.
thinking of teams, baby.
The Detroit Pistons.
Duran.
Trade. You'd have
Duran.
to trade Duran.
Right.
Everything about the
trade
Pistons
all their
feels-
centers.
That's a
5
personal
centers
thing.
that they
Everything
have.
about the Pistons feels gross to me.
Throw back to
I just-
Drummond on the Pistons.
Oh man,
Drummond and Blake Griffin was on the Pistons.
yeah, the Twin Towers. They're
Yeah.
just gonna get all the rebounds.
There's a couple of teams that you just feel like they don't even know what the hell they're doing.
Nope.
That's the thing is like I
the
just
Bulls don't
the
know what
Bulls?
they're doing. The
What are the
Bulls
Bulls-
don't
what
know
are the
what they're
Bulls doing?
I think the Suns are teetering on that spot where they don't know what they're doing
Matt
anymore.
Ishbia,
They
the
just
new
pushed
owner,
all
just
in.
making a
They
splash.
pushed it this
Yeah.
year. They said, "Hey, everything's."
They went Los Angeles Rams and say, "Hey, in 2 years we might
Oh,
be
yeah.
suck.
Yeah.
We
Matt
might be
Ishbia
suck, and we might
just
be in the tax, and we
forgot.
might be stripping our roster down. But hey, if we win a championship,
I
who
also
cares?"
thought the Bucks bringing back Chris Middleton was kind of interesting.
That's tough, and I love Chris Middleton. I've been one of his biggest defenders, but like paying
was
that
so
money
bad
for a guy
last
who's
year.
he's starting to get older, starting to deal with the injuries. I mean, he used to be one of the greatest underrated, multifaceted wings in the
Can I be
NBA.
honest with you? And I hate to
He's like Clay now, man. He's at the
Yeah.
Clay point
Yeah.
where you made it through 2 contracts, and
He
that
was
third
bad
one, now
last
you're like,
year.
man, I don't.
I'll be honest with you. And this may not be a popular thing to say. I don't know what the hell my Celtics are doing right now. I don't.
I look at the
Really?
guard position and I go, Malcolm Brogdon is always injured. Marcus Smart was your leading assist getter last year, whether you like it or not. I know it's gross to say, but it's the truth. Are you just handing the keys to Derek White and saying you're going to run the offense for 30 minutes a night?
Listen, I pray that it works out. I don't like the idea of Malcolm Brogdon being the starter going
That
forward.
offense got so stagnant sometimes when you just let Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown kind of do their ISO, take their turns.
I love
him.
KP. I love that.
Right.
But to me, I don't know.
The Celtics had the most efficient offense last year when you passed the ball. I think it was like 3+ times or 5+ times, but they did it so infrequently.
Mhm.
It's what you talk about. The whole point of having a 5-out offense and all these ball handlers and creators is you move the ball around, you attack tilted defenses, but they didn't do it often enough. So the ball movement's easily the biggest issue in Boston.
Mhm.
What if the Celtics are gearing up for a Dame trade?
But
what if they are? What if they are?
No. I'm just saying the Celtics aren't done like this offseason.
They better not
all.
be.
Yeah, right.
They better not.
Yeah.
They're
no,
not.
but if you ask me, if they were to ship Jaylen Brown out with
Well, you got to give up probably Rob.
Of course I'm fine with that.
And
Robert Williams
and picks.
And picks.
And at least 2 first-round picks.
Okay, that's fine.
I take that as a Celtics fan.
Hear me out. You do that, and you give us Dame, and you run Dame, Jason Tatum, and Kristaps. That's fine. That's fine. That's completely fine. You're getting a guy in Jaylen Brown where I don't know if Jaylen Brown wants to be here on a consistent basis. Sometimes he seems like he's in, sometimes he seems like he's out. He seems very pissed off at the world right now. Very different Jaylen Brown that was hugging Jason Tatum, when they made the finals last year. Yep. Very drastically different. I think it all started with those rumors, albeit whether they're fake or real. I personally think they were real. Where they were apparently shipping, thinking about potentially trading Jaylen Brown. He doesn't seem like he's too in love with the Boston Celtics faithful as he once was. Again, I hope that the Celtics aren't done. I think the Celtics can certainly offer the most lucrative package for Damian Lillard. I think they have a lot to offer. It's just a matter of will Dame want to play there?